Today we're talking about Sparxie in Honkai Star Rail, a powerful fire DPS who scales through punchline elation damage. She's a momentum-based carry, meaning the longer the fight goes and the more punchline you stack, the harder she hits. Her kit focuses on enhancing her basic attacks, building stacks through engagement farming, and unleashing big AoE damage with her ultimate. What makes her stand out is that she doesn't just boost her own damage. Punchline can also increase your team's crit damage, making her strong in dedicated elation teams. In this guide, I'll show you how to build her, stack her damage efficiently, and use the right rotations to get the most out of her scaling potential. Let's start with her basic attack. Cat got your flame tongue? At level 6, it deals 100% of her attack as single target fire damage, regenerates 20 energy, and breaks 10 weakness. That's already efficient. But the real power spike happens when you use her skill, boom, Sparxicles pop in. This doesn't count as using a skill traditionally, but it enhances her basic into boom, winner takes all, converting it into blast damage 100 times her attack to the main target and 50% to adjacent enemies at level 6. On top of that, it triggers engagement farming, which can stack up to 20 times during the livestream window. Every trigger increases the multiplier by 20% of the main target and 10% on adjacent enemies, while also generating punchline and sometimes skill points. This is where your scaling begins. Punchline is the core of Sparxie's identity. It's a shared team-wide and directly increases elation damage scaling. The more punchline you have, the harder all elation damage hits. That includes her ultimate, Parties Wildin' and Cameras Rollin', which deals AoE fire damage equals to 0.6 times elation plus 50% of attack at higher levels, and it grants 2 punchline on use. If you're running multiple elation units, her bonus ability, Dazzling Persona Kaleidoscope, gives even more punchline and even Thrill, which offsets skill point consumption. That means in a proper elation comp, her ultimate becomes both a nuke and an engine. Now, let's talk about her talent, because this is where the damage explodes. When Sparxie gains Certified Banger, her enhanced basic deals additional fire elation damage, 40% to the main target and 20% to adjacent enemies at level 10. But here's the insane part. For every single engagement farming trigger, she adds an additional 20% fire elation damage instance to a random targeted enemy. If you're stacked that close to 20 triggers, you're laying massive bonus hits on top of your blast damage. And remember, elation damage scales with punchline and character level, not traditional damage boosts. So raw attack and punchline stacking are key. Her elation skill, Signal Overflow, the Great Encore, takes us even further. 50% fire elation AoE damage plus 20 additional hits at 25% each to random enemies at level 10. That's an absurd number of instances, which means incredible scaling with punchline. It also grants 2 Thrill, helping manage skill points. In extended fights, this ability absolutely shreds waves in multi-target scenarios. So, how do we build her? First priority is attack. Her bonus ability, Sweet Punchline Signing, converts excess attack over 2,000 into up to 80% bonus elation. That's massive. Aim to push her well past 2,000 attack to maximize scaling. Second priority is crit stats. Why? Because her third bonus ability, Frenzy, Palette of Truth and Lies, increases all allies' crit damage by 8% per punchline up to 80%. The more punchline you stack, the stronger your entire team becomes. This makes her not just a DPS, but a scaling team amplifier. In terms of rotations, you generally want to open with technique, content, monetization, to block enemies, enter combat with bonus AoE fire damage, and immediately refund 2 skill points. From there, use her skill to start the livestream, stack engagement farming as much as possible through enhanced basics. Build punchline, then unleash the ultimate with your elation scaling is high. In elation heavy teams, her ultimate will spike your punchline even further, setting up the next damage cycle. To sum it up, Sparxie is a snowball DPS who rewards setup and stacking. build high attack to convert into elation scaling, stack punchline through engagement farming and ultimate usage, and capitalize on multi-hit elation damage for devastating AoE output. The longer the fight, the more outrageous her numbers become. If you manage her skill point economy properly and pair her with other elation units, Sparxie transforms from a content creator into a main event, and the enemies won't survive the encore. If you're building Sparxie and want to squeeze out every bit of damage possible, her relic and ornament choices are absolutely crucial. Right now, her best in slot relic set is the one that grants crit damage and allows her elation damage to ignore 10% of the enemy's defense. On top of that, she can ignore an additional 10% defense based on how much punchline she has accumulated, bringing her total defense ignore up to 20%. That's massive for scaling her damage into late game content, especially against tankier enemies. Because Sparxie's kit revolves around constant elation damage output, this defense ignore synergy makes this set her strongest and overall option and the clear priority for endgame builds. When it comes to Planar Ornaments, the best overall choice is a set that grants crit damage and further increases crit damage for 3 turns if you consume 3 or more skill points in a single turn. Luckily, that condition is incredibly easy for Sparxie to fulfill, making her ornament set extremely consistent and powerful in real combat scenarios. There is also an alternative planar set that functions almost identically to Tengu Livestream, but it requires Sparxie to have a summon. The catch is that she can only gain summon when paired with Dan Heng PT, so this option is locked behind a specific team composition. If you're running that pairing, it becomes competitive option. Finally, there's another strong planar choice that's ideal if you're struggling to reach high crit rate. This one works best when Sparxie is paired with other Elation character. However, if she's not teamed up with another Elation unit, you should avoid using this set since it loses too much value. Now let's talk stats, because this is where a lot of builds fall apart. On the body piece, you're prioritizing crit rate. On the feet, you want to run attack or speed, depending on your needs. They're roughly equal in value, so it comes down to tuning. For the planar sphere, attack is your best option, and for the link rope, you're looking at attack or energy regeneration rate, depending on whether you need smoother ultimate uptime or more raw damage. In terms of substats, crit rate and crit damage are equally important at the top of your priority list. After that, speed is next as the most valuable stat, followed by attack. For endgame benchmarks, you want at least 2,800 HP, 900 defense, just to avoid getting blown up in harder content. Aim for around 3,600 attack in battle, which ensures her scaling hits the numbers you expect. Speed-wise, she wants to start at 107 base, but you ideally want to hit somewhere between 134 and 151 to feel smooth in rotation cycles. For crit stats, your goal is extremely high consistency, 95% to 100% crit rate, and anywhere from 140 to 180 or more crit damage. Sparxie scales incredibly well with high crit consistency, so pushing towards that near 100% crit rate threshold makes a huge damage difference in overall DPS stability. Overall, build Sparxie with heavy investment into crit consistency. Leverage her defense ignore relic synergy and choose your planar set based on your team composition. If you optimize these elements, she becomes incredibly reliable and explosive elation damage dealer in endgame content. Alright, now let's talk about Sparxie's best Lightcones and which ones are actually worth your investment. First up, her signature Lightcone is, without a question, going to be her best in slot option. It grants crit damage and increases your team's skill point limit based on the number of elation units in the party, including Sparxie herself. That synergy is huge because her kit thrives in skill point heavy rotations, and scaling the cap lets you play so much aggressively without running dry. When you factor in both the Lightcone effect and its higher base stats, it will provide the strongest overall DPS increase for her on release. If you're looking at strong 4-star alternatives, the Battle Pass Lightcone is a very competitive option. It grants increased crit rate and boosts elation damage percentage when using an elation skill, which fits perfectly into Sparxie's rotation since she frequently triggers elation based damage. The crit rate also makes hitting that 95 to 100% consistency threshold much easier, smoothing out her damage output significantly. Another excellent 4-star option is the Elation Lightcone available from Priceless Jewels. This one provides a flat increase to Elation damage and applies Elation vulnerability to all enemies whenever Sparxie uses an Elation skill. That team-wide vulnerability debuff can add up quickly, especially in multi-target scenarios, making it a very strong free-to-play friendly option. Overall, her signature Lightcone will always be the premium pick, but both of the 4-star options offer solid performance and can carry Sparxie efficiently if you are not pulling for her signature. Now let's talk about Sparxie's best team setups, and we're narrowing it down to her core supports. The two standouts are absolutely Sparkle and Yao Guang. These two enable everything Sparxie wants to do: spam enhanced basic attacks, stack punchline quickly, and enhance devastating multi-hit Elation bursts without running dry on resources. Starting with Sparkle, she is arguably Sparxie's most important teammate. Sparxie is extremely skill point hungry because her enhanced basic chains and Elation windows rely on constant SP flow. Sparkle not only increases the team's maximum skill point capacity, but also actively generates more skill points over time. That alone keeps Sparxie's momentum going. On top of that, Sparkle provides massive crit damage buffs, which scale incredibly well with Sparxie's kit since Punchline already increases team-wide crit damage. When you combine Sparkle's buffs with Sparxie's stacking mechanics, you create explosive windows where every multi-hit instance benefits from layered crit amplification. Sparkle essentially turns Sparxie from a strong DPS into a full combo engine that never runs out of fuel. Then we have Yao Guang, who complements Sparxie in a different but equally powerful way. Where Sparkle focuses on skill point economy and crit amplification, Yao Guang increases the overall Elation synergy and damage flow of the team. Sparxie's damage comes from repeated Elation instances that scale with Punchline, and Yao Guang helps maximize the value of those chained hits. Because Sparxie excels in extended engagements, where she can stack engagement farming and build momentum, Yao Guang's supportive presence reinforces that sustained pressure and amplifies her scaling potential across multiple turns. When you run Sparxie with both Sparkle and Yao Guang, the team feels incredibly smooth. Skill points stay healthy, crit scaling skyrockets, and Elation damage ramps consistently throughout the fight. This setup allows Sparxie to maintain her combo rhythm, stack Punchline effectively, and cash out massive AoE bursts at full value. If you're building around her as your main carry, these two supports form your backbone of your strongest and most consistent team compositions. Outside of Sparkle and Yao Guang, Sparxie has several strong flex options that round out her team depending on what you need. Fushwen is an excellent sustained choice, keeping Sparxie alive while she ramps up Punchline stacks and providing valuable crit rate support. Baranya accelerates Sparxie's turn with action advance, letting her stack faster and front load more burst and shorter fights. Ruamei offers powerful team-wide damage amplification and res pen, which scales incredibly well with Sparxie's main Elation hit instances. Meanwhile, Pela provides defense shred that stacks nicely with Sparxie's defense ignore from Relics, helping her punch through tankier enemies. And if you're leaning in towards summon-based synergy or specific planar interactions, Danhong PT unlocks additional build flexibility while maintaining strong offensive pressure. So overall, Sparxie is a true snowball hypercarry in Honkai Star Rail, a DPS who rewards smart setup, proper skill point management, and patience. The more you stack Punchline, the more her Elation damage spirals out of control, and the more value she brings not just to herself, but to the entire team through crit rate amplification. When you pair her with core supports like Sparkle or Yao Guang, optimize her relics for defense ignore and crit consistency, and choose the right Lightcone for your account, she transforms into an absolute highlight reel DPS. Build her with high attack, near perfect crit rate, and strong speed tuning, and once those engagement farming stacks start rolling, you'll see exactly why she thrives in extended fights. If you enjoy momentum-based carries that scale harder every turn and explode in massive multi-hit AoE bursts, Sparxie isn't just a good pull, she's a main event unit worth building around.